Why am I here? Granny C walked out of the straw hut, choking with emotions. I've raised you up with blood and sweat, yet you ran away with a vixen without a word, leaving Granny alone behind. You still dare to ask me why am I here? Now that you have grown up, you rather have a vixen than Granny. Little vixen, how do you want to die? Qinmu immediately smiled. Granny, you're mistaken. I had met Hu Linger unintentionally and heard her bring up Surging River Dragon Palace. Therefore, we had gone over to take a look. Because I was studying a real dragon inside the Dragon Palace, I had forgotten about my surroundings and ended up staying another 2 days inside. It's not 2 days but 4. Hey, you said you're studying a real dragon? Granny C asked suspiciously. The little vixen didn't nourish herself by absorbing your vital qi? Hu Linger looked away embarrassedly and hid behind Qinmu as she was also slightly afraid. Qinmu roused his vital and smiled. Please take a look, Granny. A deep and low dragon roar reverberated out as Qinmu's vital qi surged out, turning into a huge dragon coiling around his body. The 2 dragons' claws fused together with his arms, and as Qinmu moved forward while giving off a punch, a loud rumble exploded out as the thunderclap burst forth. Thunderclaps resonated out over and over again in the valley as Qinmu gave off punch after punch. Green Dragon Vital Qi. Granny C was incessantly astonished. She knew Old Ma didn't impart realized Mahayana scripture to Qinmu. Without a technique that's suitable for Thunderclap 8 strikes, no matter how dense Qinmu's vital qi becomes, he would never have much attainments in Thunderclap 8 strikes. However now, Qinmu actually managed to punch out the sound of thunder. With his fists like rolling thunder, the only thing missing now was lightning. Without a corresponding cultivation technique in the spirit embryo realm, it was almost an impossible task to actually achieve this step. And that wasn't the most crucial point. It was the Green Dragon Vital Qi. The green dragon that had coiled around Qinmu's body was the Green Dragon Vital Qi, which solely belonged to the Green Dragon spirit body of the 4 great spirit bodies. This was the 3rd attribute that belonged to Qinmu's overlord body. By observing water and fire, Qinmu's overlord body Vital Qi had gained the water and fire attributes which corresponded to the Black Tortoise Vital Qi and the Vermilion Bird Vital Qi. And now he also had the lightning attribute of the Green Dragon Vital Qi. Could it be that Moor had plucked the little vixen and nourished himself instead, boosting his cultivation? That couldn't be it. I had never taught him the devil techniques of plucking and nourishing. What's exactly is going on when he said that he had seen a real dragon? Granny C was puzzled. Qinmu returned to his original stance and the green dragon which was formed by his vital qi returned back into his body. From the dragon's head to the dragon's tail, it was vivid and realistic, just like a real divine dragon. Qinmu was also startled and delighted. He didn't think that he could punch out the sound of thunder. When the little monk, Ming Exine, had executed Thunderclap 8 strikes and punched out the sound of thunder, he was beyond envious. Qinmu could also punch out the sound of thunder by using the Devil God Mighty Force Mudra, but he would use up much more energy. The consumption of Thunderclap 8 strikes was much lesser, and while cultivating Overlord Body 3 elixir technique which was better in battle, there was practically no consumption of his vital qi while in battle. Punching out the sound of thunder meant that his power had progressed rapidly once more. As he described his encounters in the Dragon Palace, Granny C was entranced by his story. When she heard that Qinmu had met skeletons that wore official robes and dry corpses, her gaze flickered and said, "There's something weird going on with 2 different kinds of deaths. You must be careful when entering." When Qinmu talked about the young dragon and Gu Linwan who had been frozen in the mysterious ice by the dragon bead, Granny C clapped her hands together and smiled. "There's something strange with Gu Linwan, this old fellow. The skeletons wearing the official robes must have died under his hands and got eaten by him. In the officialdom, everyone is vicious and greedy. How did you manage to trick him?" Hu Linger was impressed. This old lady didn't even see with her own eyes and had managed to come to the same conclusion as Qinmu just by hearing his story. Could she be a demon fox that had turned intelligent as well? Qinmu described how he had learned the secrets of Elixir Heart and took out the Junior Protector Sword. Granny C took the sword over to examine it and exclaimed in admiration, "The Junior Protector Sword is indeed one of the rare treasures in this world." The Eternal Peace Empire had forged 16 first-rank swords, and among them were Junior Protector Sword, Grand Protector Sword, Grand Tutor Sword, Junior Tutor Sword, Grand Preceptor Sword, Junior Preceptor Sword, 3 Minister Swords, White Horse Sword, Crown Prince Sword, Commandery Prince Sword, Duke Sword, Grand Marshal Sword, Sikong Sword and Heavenly Strategy Sword, which were conferred to Junior Protector, Grand Protector, Grand Tutor, Junior Tutor, Grand Preceptor, Junior Preceptor. To the Crown Prince, the 3 Ministers, White Horse Grand General, Crown Prince, Commandery Prince, Duke, Grand Marshal, Sikong and Heaven Strategies Grand General. Even though the Junior Protector Sword isn't as good as an upper first-ranking sword, it's more than enough to be used as a sex legacy treasure for other sections. It's so valuable? Qinmu jumped in shock and asked, "How valuable is this sword compared to Kakra Monk Staff?" Granny C replied, "They're about the same. Kakra Monk Staff have the blessing of Rulai, and Junior Protector Sword is a first-ranking official sword, which carries the fortune of Eternal Peace Empire, having an extremely strong power." Qinmu asked. He said that the sword arts of Eternal Peace Empire was the #1 sword arts in the world, but I didn't learn it. I only learned the sword control techniques of Secrets of Elixir Heart. Was I right to do so? It was the right thing to not learn. Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor may be one of the best, but Gu Linwan was one of our kindred devils, and his sword arts might not reach the standard of Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor. You have to see whom you are learning sword arts from. No matter how great the sword arts is, if the teacher is bad, it would still be full of mistakes. Look at the little monk, Ming Xian. He had also cultivated Thunderclap 8 strikes, but because his master had taught him badly, he had a flaw in his throat. With meaningful and heartfelt words, Granny C said, "Therefore you must choose the best master when learning sword arts. Half-baked masters are a definite no." Qinmu was bewildered. Gu Linwan was, after all, a lower first-ranking official, the junior protector of the Crown Prince. Was he a half-baked as well? "I'm not going to kill you anymore, little fox." Granny C smiled. "Let's go home, Moor. The villagers must be worried sick, and thought you must have been eaten by a strange beast out on your first hunt. Only Granny is smart and knows you have been smitten away by a little fox, therefore, I've been waiting here for you." "That's right, little fox. Granny had flipped through those ancient books of yours and written down a few notes for you. You can go flip through it yourself and avoid cultivating wrongly." Hu Linger was embarrassed and hung her head down dispiritedly. "I can't read." Granny C was astonished and laughed. "What an honest demon fox. Seeing that you didn't lay your hands on Moor and helped him chance upon an opportunity. Fine, Granny shan't lie to you. If you had followed the notes I had written and cultivate, you will definitely suffer from chi deviation and die miserably. That's the result of fooling around with my child." Hu Linger shuddered in fear and thought to herself, young Master Mu was right. The elderly in his village are all experts in swindling. They're all old foxes that have turned intelligent. Not long later, they had reached Disabled Elderly Village. Qinmu was slightly stunned. He had no idea when a village had appeared next to Disabled Elderly Village. The village was obviously newly built and much larger than Disabled Elderly Village. It also had an extraordinary grandeur, giving off a luxurious feel. Disabled Elderly Village's houses were all made from ordinary mud walls and had thatched roof which would leak when it was raining. Qinmu would frequently bring over a washbowl to collect rainwater in the house. Compared to the village that had suddenly appeared beside, Disabled Elderly Village had seemed to be much wretched. Granny C's expression turned dark as she brought Qinmu towards Disabled Elderly Village without a word. This new village was right at the side of the village path, and at this moment, all sorts of strange people started to walk out and standing at the side of the path. There were the old, the young, males and females. Every time Granny C passed by a person, the person would bow and greet respectfully, "Mistress." Even elders with gray-white hair would also have to bow respectfully and greet her mistress with an extremely humble expression and tone. Granny C's expression turned darker and continued on without saying a word while grabbing Qinmu's hand to Disabled Elderly Village. Along the way, Qinmu was astonished and didn't know what was going on as he heard "mistress" a few hundred times. Reaching the village entrance, village chief and apothecary were drinking tea. In front of them was a youth who was enjoying his tea slowly as well, with an elder standing by his side. "Mistress." The elder bowed. The youth raised his head, but his voice was unspeakably old as he calmly said, You aren't you going greet Patriarch when you see me?" Granny C's body turned stiff as she stopped in her steps and bowed. "Greetings, Patriarch." Elder of Discipline looked at Qinmu and revealed a smile, so much that his eyes were almost closed. "Mistress, is this your son?" Granny C stared at him and retorted ruthlessly. "Stop talking nonsense or I'll tear your mouth apart. Moore was picked up by me. He isn't my son." The elder of discipline gave an understanding look that made Granny C itching to beat up him. Apothecary smiled. "Granny, our good friends from Heavenly Devil Cult have been here for a few days and refused to leave as they have not seen you." Granny C's expression turned even darker. "Moore returned to the village first." "You too, Granny," Village Chief said indifferently. Granny C frowned as Village Chief said softly, "Since you had entered our disabled elderly village, you are one of us now. Your problems, we in the disabled elderly village would take on with you." The youth in front of him drank his tea and smiled slightly. "You are still as aggressive as ever, brother. This matter concerns our cult master, cult mistress, and our holy Bible. Even if disabled elderly village wants to take on this matter, I doubt you could be able to do it." Village Chief raised his eyebrows and said, "If we end up in a life and death struggle, I'm afraid the Heavenly Devil Cult would have to suffer a great loss, right? So why must we put pressure and be hard on each other? If the strength of your cult was to be cut greatly because of us disabled elderly, I bet the Imperial Preceptor would be glad to see it happen and take the chance to bring the Heavenly Devil Cult into his hands. What do you think?" The young patriarch nodded. "Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor is indeed looking for a chance to subdue our cult and make us pay allegiance to the Imperial family. However, with the Holy Bible of our sacred cult missing and our sacred cult master being killed, we are no different from an exterminated cult. If Brother remains obstinate, I'm afraid the little village which Brother is protecting would have to clash with our sacred cult. Unfold the flags." The elder of discipline beside him bowed and replied, "Yes, Patriarch. Unfold the flags." All 360 hall masters took out huge flagpoles and unfolded their flags with a swish, letting the flags fluttered with the wind. Qin Mu took a look and saw the 360 flags becoming wider and wider. Every flag had an area of 7 aries. "Put away the flags," the youth said. Elder of discipline shouted, "Put away the flags." The huge flags were put away, and as the surfaces of the flags vanished, Qin Mu saw tens of thousands of divine arts practitioners behind the flags. Each and every one of them had an imposing appearance and stood upright like spears. Without making a sound, they gave off a sense of incomparable austere. Village Chief sighed. "The teleportation flag of Heavenly Devil Cult surely lives up to its name." Just by unfolding and putting away the huge flags, tens of thousand divine arts practitioners had directly entered great ruins. It's no wonder why Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor wants to subdue the Heavenly Devil Cult for himself. If he was to obtain the divine arts of Heavenly Devil Cult, Eternal Peace Empire's army would sweep the whole world and conquer all the countries. Young Patriarch sighed. "Without a cult master, our sacred cult is merely like a sheet of loose sand today. For the past 40 years, our Heavenly Devil Cult has been in a more and more precarious situation. I reckon that the Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor would be unable to bear it anymore and lay his hands on our cult. You and I are the same. We're both getting old and have not much days left. Now I could only hope that we can choose an outstanding new cult master." Village Chief's gaze flickered and said, "And so the cult mistress who had killed the old cult master on their wedding night is your best candidate?" Young Patriarch nodded his head with a bitter smile. "Brother, you should also know how hard it is to choose an outstanding cult master with wise. There may be a lot of followers in our Heavenly Devil Cult, but not many are capable of taking over the role of cult master. Furthermore, for one to be able to match up to cult mistress is even impossible. Having no alternatives left, we could only search for cult mistress and welcome her back to the cult to take over the role as cult master." Village Chief looked at Granny C with his head aching. "I have heard that this cult mistress had killed your cult master, Li Tianqing, so why do you want her to assume the role of cult master instead of seeking revenge for the old cult master? Isn't a huge disgrace to your cult when your cult master was killed?" The eyes of young Patriarch brightened as he smiled. "Brother, don't forget that we are a devil cult and can't be surmised with logic. Since the new cult master had killed the old cult master, it just means that the new cult master is more capable, therefore we naturally have to support her." Village Chief, as well as Qin Mu and Apothecary who were by the side, had queer expressions. "There's actually such a rule in Heavenly Devil Cult? Is there such a rule, Granny?" Apothecary asked. Granny C nodded her head in a daze. Apothecary can't help asking, "Since there's this rule, why didn't you stay in Heavenly Devil Cult to be the new cult master after killing the old cult master?" Granny C replied with acerbity, "After I had killed him, I had no face to remain in Heavenly Devil Cult. If I remained there, the devil in my heart would get worse." Apothecary still didn't understand. From his understanding, it was already difficult to understand why Heavenly Devil Cult had spent 40 years to look for the enemy that had killed the cult master to be the new cult master. It was even much more difficult to understand why Granny C still had to hide and avoid them. Village Chief gave a slight smile and told the young patriarch, "If Granny doesn't want to go with you, you can't take her away." Young patriarch frowned. "I will be bringing back both Cult Mistress and the great educational Heavenly Devil scriptures." Both men stared at each other. Village Chief raised his teacup to see the visitor out. "If the visitors don't leave, I guess I'll have to exterminate them. There are too many people in Heavenly Devil Cult, so I wouldn't be making coffins for them. The people from our generation are getting fewer and fewer. I really can't bear to do this." Young patriarch raised his teacup and drank it all before placing it back down, rising from his chair. "Same goes for me. However, there are fewer people in your village. I can arrange for the coffins." "Hold it." Granny C suddenly spoke and smiled. "Village Chief Apothecary, return to the village first. I'll have a talk with Patriarch. If things go sour, we'll then have a life and death struggle. If things go well, isn't it great that everyone is happy?" Village Chief gave Granny C a glance and she smiled back. "Don't worry, at most I'll just be abducted by them." Village Chief nodded his head. "Apothecary Moore, we shall go back first." Granny C waited for them to return to the village before sitting down in front of the young patriarch and commanded, "You may withdraw discipline." "Yes, mistress." Elder of Discipline bowed and slowly withdrew. With her bright eyes, Granny C looked at the young patriarch as he sighed. "You were originally our cult saintess. Your magnificent aptitude was also peerless in your generation. I actually objected when Li Tianqing had wanted to marry you. But you didn't stop him." Granny C sneered. "Li Tianqing is my master, and it is against the ethics of a human relationship for a master to marry his disciple. Our sacred cult claims ourselves to be saints, and yet are we throwing away the ethics of human relationship?" Young patriarch frowned. "I knew something was wrong when Li Tianqing wanted to take you as his disciple. I was afraid the more time he spent with you, he would be completely smitten by you and lose his wisdom. And as expected, he was so smitten by you that he discarded his old wife that had been married to him for a few hundred years just to marry you." Granny C grinded the remnants of her teeth and chuckled. "If you know that he'll be smitten by me, then why did you let him take me as his disciple? You should be the one taking me as your disciple, patriarch. If I was your disciple, all these things wouldn't have happened. I was afraid the more time I spent with you, I would be smitten as well." Young patriarch gave a bitter smile. "When I first saw you, you were only 13 years old, yet my heart pounded violently for a few beats. It was then I knew I couldn't take you as my disciple. I was already old. I didn't want my famed reputation in my lifetime to be ruined in your hands. I would be mocked by everyone if a master ended up loving his disciple." He gave a sigh and continued, "It's rare for people to not be smitten by you once they see your true appearance. The longer they spend time with you, the deeper they sink." Granny C continued to grind her teeth and asked with a vague smile on her lips, "If that's the case, why do you still want me to be the cult master? Aren't you afraid I would ruin the sacred cult?" Young patriarch replied, "You're the best candidate. I also feel that you, being a femme fatale, would definitely raise a havoc in our sacred cult when you become the cult master. For the past 40 years, while searching for you, we had also found a few youths with outstanding talents. However, they were all not as good as you. They were all still slightly lacking to be the cult master." He gave another sigh and continued depressedly, "Once you've seen the best, you'll always feel something is lacking when you see other good ones. I'll not go back." Granny C grinned. "But I can return you a cult master which comes along with the cult's legacy Holy Bible, great educational Heavenly Devil scriptures." Young patriarch's expression wavered as he asked, "Return us a cult master? What do you mean by that?" In the disabled elderly village, Qin Mu village chief, Apothecary and the rest gazed steadily at every action Granny C and Devil Cult Patriarch made. It was surprisingly unexpected when both of them seemed to have an enjoyable conversation as they heard laughter and chattering. As Granny C and Devil Cult Patriarch were talking, Granny C suddenly looked back to the village, which was followed by Devil Cult Patriarch, who revealed a smile before turning around to say something to Granny. After a while, Granny C walked back into the village with small steps and smiled. "It's done. It's done." Everyone had a queer expression. Cripple, who was suspicious, asked with his face brimming with smiles, "When do we start fighting?" "There's no need to fight." Granny C gave a few blinks. "However, they will be staying here for a short while and leave after a few days." Everyone became stern. For the Heavenly Devil Cult to leave only after a while, what exactly are they planning? Granny C grinned and continued, "Old Ma, Moore said his Overlord Body Vital Chi had the attribute of Green Dragon. You can check if he had any improvement. The Overlord Body Vital Chi can imitate Green Dragon Vital Chi as well?" Old Ma was astonished. "Moore, quickly come here to spar with me." Qin Mu immediately went over. As Apothecary looked at the two people exchanging blows, he shifted over to Granny C and whispered, "Granny, did you sell Moore?" Granny C gave a few innocent blink and replied unflinchingly, "Why do you say that? How would I sell Moore? How much did you sell him for?" Cripple came forward and asked curiously, "Devil Cult Young Cult Master." Granny C was decrepit as she sighed. "Let them put a title on him first. I will be giving away the cult's legacy Devil Bible, great educational Heavenly Devil scriptures as well. They'll see how well he grows in the future. If it's pleasing enough, then he would officially be the sacred cult master. How's this price?" Cripple's eyes lit up and his breathing became ragged. "Such a good deal? Why didn't you find me earlier, Granny? You can sell me instead." Granny C smiled. "It's easy if you want to be the sacred cult master of Heavenly Devil Cult. You just have to take a walk in the neighboring village and meet all 360 hall masters as well as 12 cult protector elders, left and right guardians, for great cult heavenly kings, 8 great inspectors and a devil cult patriarch." Cripple's face turned as white as ashes. For Moore to become the young cult master, he will also have to suffer one round in the village next door? Granny C sighed helplessly. They want to check the goods first. Without checking the goods, how would they be at ease to make him the young cult master of Heavenly Devil Cult? In that case, you're going to impart the Heavenly Devil Cult's legacy Bible, the great educational Heavenly Devil scriptures, to Moore? Cripple asked. Granny C nodded her head gently and replied, "He's better than me. Heavenly Devil creation technique is one of the divine arts in great educational Heavenly Devil scriptures. I use the technique to strip skins and make clothing, thus being somewhat evil, but I've never thought of using Heavenly Devil creation technique to counter Sunshine refining Yang Soul in the sky of Thunderclap 8 strikes." He was the one who did. Apothecary nodded. It was indeed the perfect counter, using the Heavenly Devil creation technique to bind his soul to himself against Sunshine refining Yang Soul in the sky. Granny C smiled. Therefore, if he learned the great educational Heavenly Devil scriptures, he could probably bring the Devil Bible to glory and master some things that we had never thought of. Mute let out a few sounds and hand signs, but Deaf shook his head. "Let's not tell him. If we tell him, it wouldn't be as interesting." The bunch of elderly laughed happily together in agreement. In disabled elderly village, sounds of thunder rumbled out. Qin Mu and Old Ma's figures clashed against each other, as they both executed Tempest of the 9 Dragons at each other. Boom! The rolling thunder deafened one's ears as Qin Mu and Old Ma's fists collided. With a grunt, Qin Mu fell back with his footsteps like coiled up a divine dragon. It looked like he was falling back, but he was actually accumulating strength in his legs. In just a few steps, Qin Mu had accumulated the maximum amount of strength in his legs, and he burst forward at Old Ma like a raging dragon flying out from the abyss. Rascal! He even changed the heaven-pilfering footwork that I had taught him. Cripple astonishingly exclaimed. He could see the footwork that Qin Mu had just used was like a coiling dragon shrinking back its body to accumulate strength for its strike. It may look like he was falling back, but in actual fact, he was falling back in order to advance, making it abnormally sinister. His heaven-pilfering footwork was exquisite beyond compare, but Cripple was used to using it to show off and steal, paying no attention on how to raise the power of heaven-pilfering footwork. Cripple's footwork was mostly used for escaping after stealing and assassinating. Offense was not what heaven pilfering leg skill was good at. Qin Mu had made slight changes to his footwork and subconsciously incorporated the spirit of the divine dragon, making his body motion having the momentum of a dragon, just like a serpentine dragon. Bang bang bang. A series of collision sounds resonated out. Qin Mu and Old Ma had only exchanged a single punch, yet it was very weird as 45 loud sounds resonated out. Qin Mu flew backward. In midair, his body twisted like a moving dragon, getting rid of Old Ma's strength and landed steadily on the ground. Old Ma is still Old Ma. Cripple exclaimed in admiration. Old Ma said, Mu'er, have you comprehended the essence of this move? Qin Mu revealed a startled expression and cried out, The force of your fist is different from mine. The 45 dragons in the force of my fist were all the same dragons, whereas there are 45 kinds of divine dragons in the force of your fist, with each and every one of the dragon force being different. You have comprehended it. Old Ma gave off a gratified expression. In the Great Thunderclap Monastery, there are 100 relief sculptures of heavenly dragons called the 100 Dragons Portraits. These portraits were sculpted by the first-generation Rulai after seeing 100 kinds of dragons for himself, providing the disciples of the future generations with a mean to cultivate the fist force of Tempest of the 9 Dragons. When I was cultivating Tempest of the 9 Dragons, what I saw wasn't a real dragon but these relief sculptures. Tempest of the 9 Dragons contains 45 kinds of dragon forces and requires 45 dragon portraits, yet there are 100 different kinds of dragon portraits in Great Thunderclap Monastery. Do you know what this means? Qin Mu's heart jolted and cried out, Every time you execute Tempest of the 9 Dragons, the dragon force in your fist would be different from the previous. Old Ma nodded his head. Tempest of the 9 Dragons may look like a simple punch, but it actually concealed countless of variation within it. However, these variations are hidden in the strength that's accumulated in the fist, therefore, people are unable to tell. Take a good look, Moore. Old Ma gave a punch with his only arm and the roar of a dragon resonated out, which was followed by the rumblings of thunder. A dragon-shaped vital chi surged forth and the rush of the raging dragon was like a dragon breaking out from the lagoon and wanting to eat people. It was then followed by 2 dragon roars as 2 dragons rushed out from his fist, twisting around one another. With the bodies of the 2 huge dragons coiling around each other, they drilled forward continuously. 3 dragon roars reverberated out as the 3 kinds of overbearing and ferocious dragon forces split monuments and shattered rocks. It was then followed by 4 dragons pounce, 5 dragons devil purge, 6 dragons reincarnation, 7 dragons thrashing the sea, 8 divisions heavenly dragons and 9 dragons tempest. Old Ma's punch unleashed 45 dragon-shaped fist forces, and they were all realistic and vivid just like real dragons. He had unleashed his punch towards the sky and 45 green dragons appeared in the sky above disabled elderly village. The 45 green dragons flew into the sky while accompanied by thunderclaps and crisscrossing bolts of lightning. Qin Mu raised his head and saw a cloud dissipating and vanished in the skies. The cloud dissipated and a human head suddenly fell from the dissipated cloud and landed beside Qin Mu's legs. Qin Mu jumped in shock and saw that it was a monk's head, which he had no idea why it was hiding in the clouds. Could it be some demon had killed this monk and brought his head into the clouds? Just as Qin Mu was guessing, a few more thuds came and he saw 2 arms and 2 legs landing on the ground with the torso landing outside of the village. It's not the works of a demon. Qin Mu's heart shook. The monk was hiding in the clouds. Mute, deaf, butcher and the rest of them in the village were used to see strange occurrences, so they paid no attention to it. Old Ma didn't seem to realize he had killed a monk and raised his head to look at Devil Cult Patriarch in the eye, demonstrating his prowess. A demonstration of power to Devil Cult Patriarch and to intimidate many of the strong practitioners of Heavenly Devil Cult. In the neighboring village, the young patriarch had a slight change in expression. The divine arts of Great Thunderclap Monastery is indeed remarkable, but it's still slightly lacking in experience compared to old Rulai. I know who the One Arm is. The relinquished disciple on Great Thunderclap Monastery, Ma Wangshen, Venerable Ma. Back then he fought his way out of Great Thunderclap Monastery, making a name for himself. I didn't expect him to live in seclusion here. We can't look down on this little village. Elder of Discipline looked at the body that had fallen from the sky. This is a monk of Great Thunderclap Monastery which was killed by Ma Wangshen. This is weird. Why is a monk from Great Thunderclap Monastery doing here? The young patriarch smiled. He's probably stationed here to keep an eye out for Ma Wangshen. This is a small matter. Rulai is old and will no longer leave the mountain. On the other hand, the youth's fist skills are pretty interesting and had a high standard. He clearly hasn't learned Rulai's Mahayana scripture, yet he can unleash the full power of Thunderclap 8 strikes. In the village, Old Ma retracted his gaze and continued, Moor, what did you see in my punch? Qin Mu held back his questions. Not only were the shapes and sizes of the 45 green dragons different, even the species of the dragons were totally different, truly a shocking sight for Qin Mu. Suddenly, Old Ma once again executed Tempest of the 9 dragons. 45 different green dragons surged into the skies, violently raising the wind and clouds, which was accompanied by lightning and thunder. Old Ma gave off punch after punch, increasing the amount of the dragon-shaped fist force in the skies. Within a radius of 30 miles, it was densely packed with green dragons dancing in the breeze. The green dragons formed a gorgeous formation in the skies, with their bodies intertwining each other to form a gigantic dragon coil. With the dragon's head facing outwards, it gave out a loud roar. The roar of 10,000 dragons shaking the heaven and earth. This was no longer demonstrating to Qin Mu the profundity of Tempest of the 9 dragons, and was instead a bare demonstration of power. Demonstrating his power to great ruins, demonstrating his power to heavenly devil cult, and demonstrating his power to everyone that harbors ill intentions to disabled elderly village. Qin Mu gawked at the sight. The others in the village were full of admiration as they nodded repeatedly. The followers of heavenly devil cult in the neighboring village had a slight change in their expression as they admired endlessly. Young patriarch instructed the cult followers beside him, "Show some courtesy next time if any of you meet Ma Wangshen alone." Elder of Discipline whispered, "Do our heavenly devil cult need to be scared of a small village like this?" "Scared is an overstatement." Young patriarch smiled slightly. "They are already disabled and crippled. Their abilities are no longer what they used to. However, there are still 2 of them that are on the same level as me. One of them is the limbless man and the other one is the blacksmith. The rest of them are slightly stronger than our 12 cult protector elders and our 4 great cult heavenly kings. I'm afraid Saintus is the weakness of them all. Do you see the butcher with only the upper half of his body left? If you have seen him before, he will definitely leave a deep impression on you because he had a title called Heaven Knife." Elder of Discipline's heart tremored as he looked at Butcher with disbelief while muttering, "That's Heaven Knife? Wasn't he already dead? I had also heard that he died." A cult protector elder chipped in. "I've heard that he went insane and pointed his knife at the heavens, slaughtering his way up. Someone saw the figures of gods in the skies and this lunatic slaughtered his way up to them. From what I've heard, the skies were filled with dark clouds at that time and the knife lights pierced through the thunder clouds. Not long after, Heaven Knife's corpse fell out from the sky. If this butcher is indeed that Heaven Knife, how exactly did he survive?" Young patriarch replied, "With a being like him, it's hard for him to die even if he wanted to die." Elder of Discipline asked puzzledly, "Patriarch, why did you agree cult mistress to make this little kid our young cult master? I don't see anything spectacular in his power." This youth's power is indeed not particularly spectacular, and is still a greenhorn as of now. However, who are those people around him? Young patriarch beamed. The strong practitioners around him are exceptionally terrifying. They were all all-powerful beings that have their own talents. This youth is their child and they'll impart everything they had learned in their lifetime to him. In addition, with me teaching him our cult's great educational heavenly devil scriptures, if he becomes the sacred cult master of our cult, it would be our sacred cult's prophet. Elder of Discipline gave a gasp of admiration and asked, "Brilliant Patriarch. However, why does Patriarch wants to test him?" Patriarch asked him back, "What if he is a dumbass? Therefore there's still a need for a test. Inform all 360 hall masters that they are only to use their abilities of spirit embryo realm. We'll wait for him to enter the village tomorrow." In the village, Old Ma retracted his fist and asked Qin Mu, "Did you understand what you saw?" "I understood." Qin Mu ponder. "Ed over it. Every kind of dragon force represents a different type of strength. By arranging the dragon forces in a different sequence, the force of the fist would be different. with 100 different green dragons in the force of the fist. Once the sequence is messed up, Tempest of the 9 dragons would have countless of variations. Once someone else received my first punch, they definitely can't use the same method to receive my second punch. Even if I unleash 100 or 1,000 punches, the strength in each and every punch would never be the same. Old Ma revealed a rare smile. Previously, your overlord body didn't have any attributes, thus you couldn't cultivate Rulai's Mahayana Sutra. Furthermore, I had promised Great Thunderclap Monastery to not impart out Rulai's Mahayana Sutra. Now that your overlord body has the attribute of the green dragon, I'll still not impart it to you. However, if you are able to completely comprehend the truth of the fists, it doesn't matter if you learn Rulai's Mahayana Sutra or not. You have already obtained the dragon's grace, form, might, aura and spirit, so even if you had never seen the 100 dragons' portraits, you can still figure out the marvel of the 100 dragons' portraits. With your Overlord Body 3 Elixir technique, the power of your Thunderclap 8 strikes will be no inferior to Rulai's Mahayana Sutra. Qin Mu's spirit pumped up. Old Ma was usually cold-hearted and rarely praised others, therefore, he was very happy to receive Old Ma's praise. In addition, Old Ma's words gave him inspiration and inspired more ideas in him. If Dragon Force was the main point in Tempest of the 9 dragons, then what about the first form, Spring Thunder on the lonely East Sea? Could he grasp the essence of this form by observing the rise and fall of the large river surging into the sea and listening to the rumble of spring thunder? And was Thunder Fingers of the Pipa player related to music temperament? There's also Quafa chasing the sun and Sunshine refining Yang Soul in the sky. They must have their own methods of comprehension. The more he thought, the more he became excited and couldn't wait to leave the village immediately to roam the world, to observe the wonders of the world and view the mysterious principles of nature. Remember to wake up early tomorrow and go to the neighboring village to pay your respects. Granny C beamed. Qin Mu was puzzled. Granny, the people in the neighboring village are from Heavenly Devil Cult. Why do they call you mistress? Why do they want to make you cult master? Why are they going to kill us if you don't listen to them? Granny C caressed his head and smiled. You'll know in the future. Early next morning, after Qin Mu had breakfast and washed up, he went to pick up another egg only to meet the fury of the hen dragon, which fought equally with Qin Mu. Flapping its wings up and down, it used its sword-like feathers to cut down the egg thief while releasing a fire breath. With the green dragon coiling around his body, Qin Mu executed Thunder Fingers of the Pipa player to block the sword feathers. Muer, stop fighting with it and go pay your respects in the village next door. Granny C said as she walked over and chased away the hen dragon. Qin Mu immediately followed her. The hen dragon, which was left behind, came chasing after Qin Mu again, but it was scared away by Granny C's ominous glare. Granny C brought him to the village next door, and the Elder of Discipline came to welcome them. As he was measuring Qin Mu, he told Granny C, Cult Mistress, everything is prepared properly. Young Master is just required to walk through all 360 rooms once and that's all. Granny C blinked her eyes in disbelief. To pass all 360 rooms in a single try? Isn't that asking too much? Elder of Discipline smiled. If he can't pass all 360 rooms, I would have to ask Cult Mistress to come back with us. Granny gritted her teeth and asked, Can he rest? Feel free to rest. There are food and drinks in the room, as well as beds, medicine, spirit pills and everything that he needs. Granny C took a look at Qin Mu and gritted her teeth again. Muer, go through all 360 rooms to pay them a visit. Remember to call them senior brothers and senior sisters. There's no need to call them seniors. Qin Mu nodded as he walked towards the first house and smiled. 360 rooms, I wonder how long will it take for me to visit them all. Granny, I'll be going in. Granny C looked at his back and suddenly asked, Muer, do you know what will you face after you go in? Qin Mu turned back and smiled. I know. I won't let them take Granny away. Granny felt a warmth in her heart as she turned back to leave. When she had picked up this child from the river back then, she had never expected the day would come when the baby back then would help her share her burden. Qin Mu walked into the first level of the first house and saw the room was pretty wide. Inside there was a yellow-faced man. His face was so yellow that it looked like he had just eaten a gallbladder. On his chin was a comb of mountain goat beard and on his hand was an abacus, making him look like a bookkeeper doing accounting. Senior brother. Qin Mu stood still and first paid his respects before removing all his weapons from his back and placed them at the door. "Senior brother, please." The bookkeeper looked at the 11 to 12 years old boy in astonishment and asked engrossingly, "You know what you're here for? Could it be that cult mistress had told you?" Qin Mu stretched his body and his vital qi surged forward as he smiled. "There's no need for Granny to say it clearly, as I knew it naturally." As power burst forth beneath his feet, he reached face to face with the bookkeeper in just a step. With the rumbling of thunder from his palm, the youth's vital qi was unusually intense like fire. "Don't I just have to fight my way through from the first room to the 360th room?" The bookkeeper immediately raised his hand to block and felt a giant force bashing him, causing him to uncontrollably fly back and crash into the wooden wall behind him, falling into the courtyard. He stabilized himself after sliding dozens of yards. He was astonished and angry at the same time as he looked through the hole in the wall to see Qin Mu walking to the door to pick up his weapons before proceeding to the next room. "Why am I sulking at a child?" The bookkeeper broke into laughter from his anger soon after and shouted loudly to the others in the wooden building, "The rest of you better be careful. This little kid is very shrewd. His vital qi at spirit embryo realm is extremely dense, and is at least 2 times higher than mine at spirit embryo realm. Take care not to fail miserably. Denser than yours by 2 times? A tinkling female voice rang out in astonishment. With this kind of cultivation, as expected of the young master. However, I wonder how his spells are. Qin Mu walked to the next house and pushed open the door. In the room was a scholar swaying his head as he was enthralled by the book in his hand. "Senior brother." Qin Mu greeted. The scholar gave a wary expression and smiled. "You're going to land a sneak attack on me when I return your greeting? I'm not giving you the chance to." Chi Kaduo. Boom. The sound of thunder burst forth and violent tremors could be felt. Splinters filled the air as the scholar flew backward, shattering the woods and into a towering tree. The scholar landed on the ground and warned in a loud voice, "Be careful, this little brat has powerful abilities and is proficient in the incantation of the devil, which is even more unpredictable than our sacred cult's incantation." Boom! Just as he had finished warning, a senile private tutor flew out from the wooden building and tumbled onto a stone pillar, unable to restrain his anger. "Bullshit! I was tricked by you and only focused on defending his devil incantation, giving him the chance to use Great Thunderclap Monastery's techniques to almost injure my soul. Don't be tricked. He uses the Thunderclap 8 strikes of Great Thunderclap Monastery." Bullshit. An angry female voice sounded out from the 4th house. "Old Xia, you sabotaged me. What he used was the Heavenly Devil Nature technique to seal my 3 souls and 7 spirits. Don't you dare run away after touching me all over and spoiling my reputation, little brat." Qin Mu's face turned slightly red as he walked out of the 4th room. The hand technique of Heavenly Devil Nature technique required to touch the other person's perineum, chest, and navel. These 3 spots were the private parts of a woman, therefore, it was not easy for Qin Mu to do it. It was very obscene, especially at the perineum. "I'm still too young to understand all these." The cowherd boy of disabled elderly village blinked his eyes innocently as he said silently to himself. In the 5th room, a man who was skinny like a bag of bones looked at Qin Mu as he walked over and sneered, "No matter what kinds of devil methods you use, you can forget about passing through me." Victory-loathing golden toad technique. As he walked to Qin Mu, he took in a deep breath at the same time, creating a croaking sound. The sound grew louder and actually sounded like the croaking of toads. Qin Mu was startled. The skinny body of the Heavenly Devil Cult's Hall Master gradually bloated up. His original skin, which was like a bag of bones, slowly inflated into sturdy muscles with the more air he sucked in. The victory-loathing golden toad technique walked path of demon transformation to imitate the victory-loathing golden toad. Victory-loathing golden toad was a unique breed in the strange beasts. Normally it was only as big as a washbowl, but when it was puffed up with air, its body could be expanded up to 100 times bigger, and it even could swallow ferocious tigers and lions in one bite. Once he executed victory-loathing golden toad technique of Heavenly Devil Cult, his strength would become limitless and his vital chi would become especially dense. The degree of enhancement wasn't as terrifying as the golden toad, but it was still no small matter. As the Heavenly Devil Cult's Hallmaster took in a deep breath, Qin Mu was also sucking in air as well. However, different from victory-loathing golden toad technique, his chest didn't bloat up, but the breath he took in was terrifying. Almost all the air in front of him was sucked up by him, causing the air at the sides to fill up the void. This actually resulted in a small breeze in the wooden building which even shook the windows. The Hall Master's vital chi became extremely violent as he finished taking in his breath. His whole body was bulging with muscles that were like rocks, stretching his shirt so much that it seemed that it could split apart anytime soon. His body also gradually grew higher until it reached 4 yards, making him seem like a small giant. Whereas Qin Mu's body remained the same without any changes. Victory-loathing golden toad technique had a matchless strength and could shatter you in one punch. Croak. The Hall Master raised his palm and it became as big as a palm leaf fan and as red as blood. With a blood-red glow shining in the room, the air nearly exploded with his punch that was aimed at Qin Mu. Similarly, Qin Mu gave a punch as well. The big and small fists collided into one another, and in that instant, the whole wooden building tremored violently. The Hall Master gave a grunt as moved a step back. The muscle on his arm squirmed as if a dragon had tunneled in and was traveling under his skin towards his heart at a rapid speed. His expression changed as he raised his other arm, chopped down on his arm to split the dragon in half. With another step back, his arm bulged again and it seemed like 2 dragons were squirming under his skin, causing him to quickly chop down again. When he took his 4th step back, the wall behind him was shattered, and with his 5th step, he had landed on the ground outside the building. He took another 4 steps back and leaned on a huge tree which suddenly trembled violently. The trunk of the tree was reduced to powder as the crown of the tree collapsed. With the wood shavings flying around the air, a picture of 9 dragons controlling the tempest surged out from the back of this Hall Master, which was accompanied by thunder and light as well as the furious roar of 9 dragons. He wasn't able to intercept the 9th layer of force from Tempest of the 9 dragons. I'm Rain Hall Master of our sacred cult and people called me Little Rainbringer. Are you good in your spells? Qin Mu walked into the next room and there was a woman inside. On her face were strange tattoos and on her head was a victory headdress made from feathers. On her hand was a staff made from an unknown beast tail that had 24 joints to correspond to the 24 solar terms. The woman smiled. We shall compete. Using our spells in this room. Qin Mu shook his head. I don't know any spells. Can practitioners of the spirit embryo realm learn spells too? The woman smiled. Why not? Vital Chi is magic power and you can cast spells once you know spells. Cult Mistress was the best spellcaster in our cult. Didn't she teach you? When I was in the spirit embryo realm, I had already traveled around in the martial world to bring rain by spells for the commoners. Whenever there was a drought, the commoners would invite me over to help them. Therefore they called me a witch. However, as my cultivation grew stronger and had a greater reputation, they then called me Little Rainbringer. I'm indebted to the cult master for thinking highly of me and bestowing me as the Hall Master of Rain Hall. However, I'm still inferior compared to the cult mistress. Back then, she was the one who had become saintess and not me. Qin Mu was bewildered. How do I fight using spells? Rain Hall Master put her hand on her forehead and sighed. Why don't you know anything? The dispute between the School of Spells and the School of Battle Techniques has existed down through the ages. Before, people cultivating spells and people cultivating battle techniques always fought to the death against each other. The 2 schools recognized each other as heresy and wanted to kill off each other. Now everyone may be living together in harmony, but in the past, if you run to a divine arts practitioner and say you cultivate battle techniques, you would be diced in pieces in the next instant. The battle prowess of spellcasters is much powerful than you imagine. Qin Mu asked curiously, are sword control techniques considered spells? No, they aren't. Rain Hall Master shook her head. Sword control techniques were considered battle techniques in the past. However, they later claimed that they were the true path, and that people who cultivated spells and battle techniques were going down the unorthodox path, thus they had to die. This was why Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor held a conference and challenged all the strong practitioners of battle techniques, crippling them. Didn't Cult Mistress tell you these? Qin Mu frowned. Why are they always fighting? Aren't battle techniques, sword arts, and spells all divine arts? Isn't it better to gather all their advantages together as one? Rain Hall Master didn't know whether to laugh or cry. A person's energy is limited. How does one have the time to cultivate all three styles to a profound realm? One could use up their life and wisdom just by meticulously studying a single style and still could hardly cultivate it to its peak. Since people are cultivating different things, there would be competition on who's better, which would result in that they're unable to coexist with one another. Qinmu raised his spirit and asked, "Elder sister, show me some spells. I have never seen spells before." Rain Hall Master raised her slender white hand and pointed her 5 fingers down. With a raise and a tremor, mist started to form in the room and it began to rain. Qinmu observed closely and saw that after the raindrops fell on the ground, they flew up the sides of the walls to create an endless cycle. Rain Hall Master waved her hand and the raindrops clearly became lines just like the strings of an instrument. Opening up all 10 of her fingers, she strummed the rain lines, causing music to resonate throughout the room. In the music, the rain transformed into a flood dragon rushing towards Qinmu. Qinmu stretched his hand out and grabbed onto the weakness of the water flood dragon, crushing it with a splash. Rain Hall Master was astonished and strummed the musical strings even faster, turning the raindrops into sharp weapons that flew toward Qinmu in all directions at an insane speed. The temperature in the air rapidly decreased and froze the rainwater into ice, making the sharp weapons even more treacherous. With his 10 fingers flicking after one another, Qinmu shattered the sharp weapons that were flying to him. "So these are spells. Elder sister, is this move considered a spell too?" His hands suddenly ignited with blazing flames, and with his hands as knives, he swung his knives continuously and blew Rain Hall Master away. Rain Hall Master landed in the courtyard and her angry yet startled voice cried out, "You are a heretic of the battle technique faction, to use battle techniques as spells." Walking into the next room, Qinmu saw a burly man with a stubbly beard as he sat in Saiza. Beside him was a rectangular sword case with a bronze buckle firmly fastened around it. "I'm the Hall Master of the Sword Hall." The burly man didn't rise up and remained in Saiza as he said, "You're carrying a sword pouch, therefore you should know sword skills. We shall compete in our sword skill today." Qinmu shook his head. "I never learned sword skills before." The Sword Hall Master raised his head in astonishment. "If you never learned sword skills before, then why are you carrying a sword pouch? Did Cult Mistress not teach you anything about sword skill?" Qin shook his head and answered, "Granny said in the village there was a man with #1 sword skill in the world, therefore, she couldn't teach Heavenly Devil Cult sword skills to me in case it would cause the person not to teach me in the future." "#1 sword skill in the world?" The Sword Hall Master stared with wide-open eyes. His sharp eyes were like 2 rays of sword light penetrating into Qinmu's heart as he laughed coldly. "Who dares to be so arrogant? Go learn a move from him. I want to see what the so-called #1 sword skill in the world can do against ours from our sacred cult." Qinmu blinked his eyes innocently and said, "I have also learned other skills like Thunderclap 8 strikes, Heaven Pilfering Divine Legs, Pig Slaughtering Knife skills, Spear skill, Painting, Hammer skills." The Sword Hall Master caressed his sword case gently and demanded coldly, "I only want to see the #1 sword skill in the world. The rest is all crap." Qinmu could only walk out of the wooden building helplessly and return to disabled elderly village, explaining to Granny C what had happened. Granny C angrily grumbled, "Sword Hall is such an inflexible brute. Same goes for you, Moore. Just use your knife to hack him into pieces." Qinmu mumbled, "That would be an unfair fight." Granny C held his hand and brought him back to the gate of the village. At the gate, village chief and apothecary were still brewing tea while the young patriarch sat in front of them. The 3 of them drank together. "Village chief, the Sword Hall Master is persistent to have a sword skill contest with Qinmu." Granny C beamed, "Why don't you teach him a thing or two?" Village chief frowned and shook his head. "In such a short time, it will still be difficult to win the opponent even with my guidance. After all, nobody knows how many years the Sword Hall Master has been immersed in the study of sword skills. He should probably have got some achievement of his own. You want me to teach Moore a thing or two, and then he would be able immediately to win the Sword Hall Master. Isn't it like reaching for the stars? But it's a good thing Moore is an overlord body, am I right?" Granny C blinked his eyes innocently. "Overlord body?" The corners of village chief's eyes started twitching, and he was starting to regret what he had done. After all, He was the one who insisted that Muir was the overlord body that he had made up. Qin Mu being able to awaken his spirit embryo was already out of his expectation, but he knew there was a limit to everything. It was a Herculean task to make Qin Mu able to fight against an outstanding sword skill expert from Devil Cult in just a short time. Granny C had pushed this task to him and he, of all people, couldn't reject her. Village Chief muttered to himself for a moment before saying, "Muir, recite to me the secret of Elixir Heart that you had learned from Gu Linwan." Qin Mu immediately recited out Secret of Elixir Heart once and Village Chief nodded in admiration. The Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor has indeed created an accomplishment by gathering all the sword experts in the world. The sword control techniques of Secret of Elixir Heart truly have its originality. The young patriarch in front of him also sighed in admiration. The Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor is a genius. Village Chief continued, "Tell me, how did Gu Linwan explain the secret of Elixir Heart to you?" Qin Mu repeated Gu Linwan's explanation word for word and Village Chief smiled and kept silent for a while. Gu Linwan had selfishly hidden away some stuff. He pointed out the mistakes within it, and Qin Mu immediately used Qi to manipulate sword after he tried changing the mistakes that Village Chief had fixed, becoming very impressed after he found that controlling the sword became much easier and faster. The eyes of young patriarch lit up as he smiled. Gu Linwan didn't hide stuff selfishly. It was that his comprehension was limited and not as profound as brother. You only heard it once and you could completely comprehend the entire profundity of Secret of Elixir Heart, whereas he who had cultivated it all his life had still cultivated wrongly. "Thanks for the praise, brother." Village Chief looked at Qin Mu and said in a steady pace, "I shall not teach you sword skill. I shall only teach you a simple movement, which is stab." Stab? Qin Mu was stumped. Wasn't stabbing as easy as using vital qi to manipulate the sword to stab forward? Why was there a need to learn? Using the sword to stab is not as simple as you think. Even if you don't know sword skills, as long as you master this stabbing movement, not much sword skill experts in the spirit embryo realm would be able to defeat you in this world. Village Chief continued, "Using an ordinary sword, try using qi to manipulate the sword to stab into the pillar of the butcher's shop." Qin Mu executed Secret of Elixir Heart and his vital qi, which was as thick as an arm, swept up a treasure sword in his sword pouch, flying towards the pillar of the butcher's shop in the village. Thud! Qin Mu stabbed through the pillar of the butcher's shop with the tip of the sword coming out from the back of the pillar. The cowherd boy then turned back to look at Village Chief. Village Chief's expression turned stiff as he coughed. "Try stabbing this rock." Qin Mu's vital qi curled and pulled the treasure sword out from the pillar, and with a clang, the sharp sword pierced through the mountain rock in front of Village Chief. The cowherd boy once again turned back and innocently looked at Village Chief, whose expression had turned totally stiff. The young patriarch felt startled and funny at the same time. However, he could only restrain his laughter as to not be impolite. "I've forgotten this kid's vital qi cultivation is extremely dense. His sword skill may be utter crap, but with the support of his extremely dense vital qi, the power of his stab had increased exponentially." Village Chief covered up his awkward by giving off a few coughs and continued, "Trying stabbing through your pig slaughtering knife." A crisp clink sound rang out. However, Qin Mu wasn't able to pierce through the pig slaughtering knife this time. "It's lucky he didn't pierce through it, else I wouldn't have any idea on how to teach him." Village Chief secretly gave a sigh of relief and guided patiently. "So what did you feel when you stabbed your sword?" Qin Mu pondered over it carefully and his eyes suddenly lit up. "I felt that my vital qi wasn't strong enough. When using qi to manipulate sword, my vital qi was somewhat obstructed at the tip of the sword. It felt like having an entire body filled with strength, yet I'm beating someone with my hair. The vital qi thread was too flimsy and can't handle all of my strength."